The rhinoceros, an iconic land mammal of Africa, a species under threat from those who seek to make a fast and illegal profit from its horn. Indeed, if nothing is done, the rhino's days are coming to an end.
When people and animals collide, things are never simple. In this wildlife-human conflict, I'm often called in to seek out the truth, to find out what's really happening on the front line. My name is Ivan Carter, hunter, conservationist, and wildlife investigator.
I'm in Zuluand Rhino Reserve in the eastern region of South Africa. Nearly 90 square miles in size, this is an incredibly well-managed and protected area, and home to a number of endangered species, most notably the rhinoceros. Two species of rhinos roam freely, the mild-natured white rhino and its ill-tempered cousin, the black rhino. On every property in Africa today that rhinos exist, there's a threat that people will cross the perimeter fences, enter the protected areas and kill a rhino for its horn. A horn which by the time it reaches the streets in Asia will fetch a large sum of money. I've witnessed the devastating results of these attacks before, and I've returned to the region to continue my investigation of this rhino war. I receive word that a black rhino in the area has been found dead. What's worse, we find out that it was a nursing mother. There is an abandoned calf out there somewhere, hidden and terrified. I arrive at the scene where I meet with Karen Holmes, manager of the reserve, and wildlife veterinarian Mike Toft. A helicopter's being mobilized, and Karen's key rhino tracker, Stony, a man whose reputation with rhinos is exceptional, is tasked with scouring the area for any signs of the baby.
A rhino cow was killed last night, and she had a small calf. Stony has managed by just quietly and slowly following the tracks to locate the direction that that calf is going. So we're going to go in there and see if we can actually see it. Then we're going to call the vet with a helicopter who's going to dart the calf and move it to an orphanage. Great. This is a rhino track right here. Tiny little guy. That's his front toe right here.
Stony suddenly freezes. The flicker of an ear, nearly invisible.
We've seen this little rhino. He's just lying down in the thicket there, almost impossible to see, but I don't want to go closer. If any of us go closer, we run the risk of him smelling us or seeing us. Mike's going to come with a helicopter and dart him, and then he'll be in safe hands.
Mike prepares his darts and equipment, and as he boards the helicopter, the ground support crew follows with a vehicle. The helicopter arrives, and Stony and I point to where the rhino lies. Mike hangs out of the chopper, his dart gun primed and ready. The baby is terrified. We need to get the rhino out into the open, so Mike can get a clean shot with the dart gun. Any minute wasted is another minute of stress the rhino must endure. Once again, we move towards the rhino and try to get it into the open. I point out its location to the chopper.
Careful, careful. The little rhino was so scared he was just hunkering under a bush. He couldn't be seen by the helicopter. We had to push him out, and he's so aggressive, he's so stressed. The helicopter's hovering over him here. I'm hoping they're going to get a dart in.
The ground crew is behind us, running to get to the scene. We get word that the dart is in.
They're just hovering over him. I don't want to get in there and really stress him any more than necessary. As soon as it goes down, they'll let us know and we can go in.
The baby rhino slows, the medication in the dart showing its effects. The first step is to place a shirt over its eyes to calm it, something this rhino desperately needs. The stakes are high. With an animal this small, the powerful drug, M99, needs to be used sparingly and accurately. Too little will have no effect, and too much will quickly kill her. Finally secure and stabilized, we prepared to transport her to the vehicle.
In light of this disaster, at least something's gone right. At least we managed to find this little guy. Or little girl, as it turns out. Well, Karen's going to travel in the front vehicle with the baby rhino in the back. Just to reduce the stress, we're actually meeting the wildlife ambulance halfway, which is a fully kitted out ambulance trailer, actually. We're going to transfer the rhino over to that. She's stable at the moment. She's on an IV. It's going to be a long night, but sometimes that's what it takes.
Night falls as we begin the journey. There's an air of tired relief. It's been a long, stressful day that started early. But this is what it takes on the front line of conservation. Our rhino is a few steps closer to safety.
So we've just met with the orphanage trailer here at a gas station, and this little girl, she's still asleep. She's got a blanket over her so that she's nice and thermoregulated. And what we're going to do is actually transfer her into this trailer here, which doesn't look like much from the outside, but it really is a very fancy piece of equipment. It's got everything that they need to be a mobile hospital, so she can be stabilized on her way to the orphanage.
With great care, we transfer her into the truck and drive the rest of the way to the orphanage.
This is the end of the journey here, and as you can see, it's a very well thought out facility. There's a heat lamp with some straw behind me here. The floor is all rubber mats, so it's not going to slip. It's heated in here, and as soon as the rhino's in here, it's a nice quiet environment so that she can settle in here. And you know, this is the end of this part of the journey and the beginning of her rest of her life.
After some time, she slowly emerges from the truck. Cautiously examining her temporary home, everything is strange and unfamiliar. But she's calm and soon finds comfort near the heat lamp. I look around me. I'm surrounded by greatness, quiet, confident people, absorbed in the moment. With my work done, I leave Karen and Mike. Today was a success, but a bittersweet one. While we saved one rhino, we lost another, a reality that has become all too common in Africa. Everything that lives on the planet today will die. It's the most natural thing in the world. What's not so natural, however, is how it dies.
One of the last remains to disintegrate of any animal that dies out in the bush is the skull. And the reason for that is that a skull is very often the largest and heaviest bone of an animal. This is a particularly interesting bone here. It's the skull of a white rhino.
Ceratotherium simum. The white rhino can weigh in at 6,000 pounds. Longer necked, these grazers use their wide, callous lips to graze the open plains.
This bony pad on the front is where the front horn would have been attached to. Of interesting note is that there's no bone core to those horns. They really are truly just a growth that's made out of the same material as your fingernails. Here's another rhino skull. This one is a black rhino, a lot shorter.
Diceras bicornis, black rhino or hook-lip rhinos, a short, squat animal weighing in at about 3,000 pounds. Being browsers, their most distinguishing characteristic is their hooked lip.
This rhino is completely clean, probably died a totally natural death. Nothing natural about the way this rhino died. A bullet hole through the brain, axe marks on the back horn, and in their haste to escape, they just chopped the whole front of its face off. Another white rhino that suffered the same fate. In their haste to get out of there, these guys were very sloppy with their axe cuts. You never know if this rhino was truly dead when that was going on or not. You sure can tell a lot from a skull left to rot in the bush.
Statistically, in today's Africa, white rhinos are poached significantly more than black rhinos. Why is this? I hope I can uncover the truth behind the issue here.
I'm on the Zuluand Rhino Reserve, and one of the reasons for coming down here is to discover why so many more white rhino are poached than black rhino. We've got access to a helicopter here. We're going to look at the terrain from the air. We're going to try and walk up to some white rhino, walk up to some black rhino, and really get an idea from a poacher's perspective how different each hunting scenario would be, bearing in mind that you've got to stay under the radar.
I take to the air and am met with a vast terrain of both wide open plains and dense African brush, alive with wildlife.
Anytime you get to an open area, that's where we're scanning for the white rhino. We're not even trying to see a black rhino because at this time of the day, being nocturnal, they're in the densest of thickets. So what I'm trying to ascertain here is, are the poachers targeting these white rhinos on purpose, or is it just easier to find a white rhino?
It's not long before we spot our first group of white rhinos. I need to look at this terrain from a poacher's perspective.
They're going to look at the location of a rhino, and they're also going to look at all times how fast they can get back to the boundary. Once they've shot a rhino, once they've got that horn in their backpack, they're going to be making a beeline for the closest possible boundary.
But how accessible are those boundaries to the outside world? I return to the ground to get a better idea.
I'm standing right here in a private game reserve, and it's a game reserve that's very well funded, it's very well managed. And so you would imagine that the wildlife that roams around in here is incredibly well protected. Unfortunately, every game reserve has got a boundary of some sort. What's in the background here is actually very sinister. You've got a bunch of villages overlooking this very resource. Every animal that's roaming around in here at some stage or another will walk near the boundary. You've got people out there who are financially marginalized. You've got people out there who will do anything for a quick buck. And everybody knows the value of a rhino today. Right in front of me, we've got a tragedy that has unfolded a couple of months ago. What's in the background here is actually very sinister. Literally within sight of the community, within a couple of 100 yards of the boundary, a rhino cow and calf were gunned down as they fed through this grass one evening. Within 5 minutes, these guys can get over the fence. Another 10 minutes to get to the rhino, shoot it, a few minutes of chopping the horn, and in less than half an hour, they're back into the community. The horn gets slammed into the trunk of a car, and everything else is just left out here to waste and rot away.
I meet with one of the managers, who, for security reasons, needs to remain anonymous. He walks me through the chain of events that led to this grisly scene.
You'll find that a lot of the organizers or the trigger pullers, whatever you'd like to call them, they'll attend weddings, they'll attend funerals, they'll attend soccer matches, and this is where they recruit their people from. They find a guy that likes to drink a lot, that likes to talk a lot, they give him $100 and information starts flowing freely from there. Once a guy's hooked and once he's tasted that, living on a subsistence livelihood here, and suddenly there's money coming in for free, what is the guy going to do? You know, he's going to do what he needs to do to provide for his family.
Absolutely.
The manager walks me through the methods these poachers use to target unsuspecting rhinos.
You'd have two teams. So you'd have two guys sitting on top of the hill overlooking this, and you'd have two guys hiding right by the fence. And literally it would be, okay, there's 2 rhino in the area. It takes a minute to climb over the fence. Electrified, doesn't matter. It takes a minute to climb
And they sometimes cut it, or they just get over
Cut,
the thing?
climb over, whatever's easiest for them, whatever's quickest for them. Any movement inside, those guys sitting on top of the vantage point, it's a second cell phone call. Get out. That's it, done and dusted, nothing further.
Clearly, it's difficult to secure these borders, regardless of how sophisticated they might be. But with a very limited window of opportunity, it seems these poachers will attack any rhino they come across. So why are the white rhinos still the most common victims? I travel back to the interior of the reserve to get a closer look at both of these rhinos.
This is where a rhino has laid here. He's laid here for quite some time. There was rain in the night, and you can see that the ground here is not wet at all. Judging by the size of this area, it's probably a black rhino. Black rhinos are nocturnal, and so they'll spend the night feeding, and then as it starts to get first light, they'll find a place to rest, and as it gets warmer, they'll find their way into really thick bush. He's been out here. He's very, very likely to still be in the vicinity, and so I'm sure from this spot, we're going to be able to find a fresh track and hopefully be on him in a few minutes' time.
With the help of our tracker, the group and I quickly pick up on the rhino's trail. Finding fresh sign, we stop and make rhino-like noises to see if he'll challenge us.
The sounds that Dylan's making on this tree are the sounds of a rhino rubbing on the tree. We've got to be really, really quiet so there's no human sounds. He's breaking a few branches there.
We see no sign of the rhino and proceed to make more noise.
Okay, we found the rhino. We're going to get up in this tree right here and try and call this rhino into us. Come, let's try.
After some more snorting and branch breaking, curiosity finally gets the better of our rhino. We continue to make noise to coax the rhino in closer and quickly climb into the safety of a tree, or at least I hope. As I rustle more leaves, the rhino becomes noticeably agitated. Is he onto us?
Unbelievable. See how he came in? Every sound that we made just brought him in, just to come and check who's in his territory. You can imagine if you're a poacher thrashing around through some thick bush in the night and a rhino hears you and comes to investigate. That right there would be a very intimidating experience.
This rhino was a rare sight in the middle of the day, but how do they react to humans at dusk when they're starting to move around? As the sun begins to sink, we look for another rhino to find out.
This is the rhino's foot here. He's done a dropping here, and what they do is they push it around with their feet, particularly if they're feeling a bit territorial. But you can see that's his front toe. They belong to a family called Perissodactyla, which is the odd-toed animals. And so this guy's just got the 3 toes. You can see how he's pushed in the droppings. Looks very, very, very fresh. I'm sure we're going to find him just up here.
Once again, we begin tracking, hoping that with the sun setting, it won't be long before we find the animal.
So we've got this rhino just lying down in front of us here. You know, rhinos have got this reputation of being really, really cantankerous. They've got the reputation of being one of the most dangerous animals. But what we're going to try and do is we're going to go in here. We're going to try and see how close we can get to him and then probably alert him to the fact that we're here and just see what his reaction is.
It's not long before the rhino rises with the setting sun. Perhaps a touch hastily, I pick the closest tree to climb. It's not as high as I would like, but there are few other options.
I'm going to make a noise like another rhino coming into his territory. He'll probably come straight in. I'm not quite high enough here, but hopefully this will all go okay.
I barely make any noises at all, and the rhino comes in. Now that was too close for comfort.
And that right there is what earns these animals a reputation of being so cantankerous. But as you can see, he's just asserting his authority. As soon as he feels like he's got that authority and he realizes we're human, he's out of here. That right there is a black rhino.
It's now decidedly clear why a poacher would be less inclined to attack a black rhino. It took very little provocation for him to attack. Clearly, these are formidably aggressive animals and undoubtedly dangerous to a would-be poacher. But what about white rhinos? While they're known to be relatively placid animals, surely they share some of the defensive characteristics of their black counterparts. I venture into the open plains to find out.
Now, this is really very typical white rhino habitat. The wind is perfect. You can see they're a lot more relaxed than the black rhino.
Much more social than their black cousins, white rhinos tend to travel in groups. Nevertheless, I approach carefully. There are no trees to hide in if things go awry.
Okay, they've heard me moving here. They heard me moving. The very first thing that happened is that little calf went straight to his mother. Just moving away here.
The herd is clearly wary of my presence.
And off they go.
They run to a safer distance.
As you could see as I approached those white rhino, all they did is really look at me and then move gracefully out of the way. With a black rhino, it would have been very different.
While the white rhinos are clearly anxious, they appear to be far less confrontational than black rhinos. From a poaching perspective, it's now clear why they'd be more inclined to attack white rhinos. It's been a successful day. I've learned a lot from the Zuluand Rhino Reserve. My plans for tomorrow come to a halt, however, when an early morning call comes in from Kruger National Park. With haste, I travel to the renowned game reserve to see what's really happening. As one of the section rangers here in Kruger, Richard leads his anti-poaching operatives under sand parks.
The vultures have been here. A couple of days ago, this was rhinos walking around. Now it's just the scene of a massacre.
The dictionary says that a massacre is an indiscriminate and brutal slaughter. In this case, I think the term fits the bill. A fully grown female rhino lies dead and stiff-legged in the heat. Her swollen features suggest she's been dead for a few days. Clearly, the hyenas have been feeding off her during the night. It's a massacre, in every sense of the word.
You walk around carcasses like this and the stench is overwhelming. It's the smell of despair. It really is the smell of despair.
This is a waste. This would have generated income through photographic tourism, specifically to this area. That goes back into communities, homes, schools, children, all the rest of it. You think of the billions we're spending on this rhino war. It could be so better spent with all the human issues at the moment. But when it comes back down to it, this is a human issue. Because with the rhino gone, the tourists are gone. With the tourists are gone, there's the income. So basically, this is an attack on the economy. This is really the savior of Africa, is its wildlife. It is the one resource that the rest of the world does not have to the extent with which Africa has it. And if it's squandered like this, it's not going to do anyone any good.
Richard's words sink in. There's a bigger picture here, a bigger story than at first might meet the eye. Upon further investigation, we discover there's more to this crime scene.
Looks like the hyena tracks go here. You can just see they've come backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards.
Hyenas usually roam in packs. Clearly, They were feeding on the carcass during the night. We follow the tracks and make a grisly discovery. The sight is gruesome indeed.
So this is a young subadult bull rhino, only a year and a half, 2 years old.
Barely older than the infant we found in Zululand, and with barely a horn to call its own. Being so young, it's no surprise to find it as close to its deceased mother. But what happened here? As with all crime scenes, the clues tell the story. Richard and I start our investigation with the mother.
The shots were heard in 2 volleys of 4. And they were about 10 or 15 minutes apart. This was the mother. The poachers probably followed this one, being that it's the biggest one. The calf at the same time, I believe, right here got confused. For the first time ever in his life, this little guy wasn't right next to his mother. So he may have still heard the mother squealing, started walking up here, at which point, instead of finding his mother, he found a poacher with a loaded rifle. The shots were fired, he turned and probably stumbled and fell here. Got up, and finally, when he couldn't go any further, he's laid down over here. They have a very, very tight bond with the female. He was probably very confused as to why she wasn't right here. They finished chopping off her horn and then approached him. There's little doubt in my mind that they approached him while he was still alive. He has an X mark in his back. Whether they'd run out of ammo or whether they were just trying to conserve a $5 or a $10 shell, what they would have done is first tried to chop his spine to disable him. That didn't work. That cut hasn't gone into his spine. He's not big enough for them to truly be scared of him. And so they started to chop. One of the first chops hit him a full 10 inches away from his horn. They were having a hard time hitting the mark as this rhino struggled to get up, struggled to get away, and time after time the axe came down in his face. And the harsh reality of this story is that his face was chopped off while he was still alive.
The way some of these animals are mutilated, they really don't care at all. Achilles tendons hacked through to stop it running away, spines chopped with axes. And there was one we found, they'd hacked through her spine, and she couldn't obviously move, and in 5 days she had dug a hole about a foot deep with her chin, just thrashing it back and forwards, and with the blood making the soil soft. It was a horrific scene. You wonder what humanity's got to when that sort of thing becomes commonplace. And the worst thing is that you become so hardened to it. Yeah. The first ones that I ever saw, you were emotionally shocked. You just walk up to it now and you start looking for evidence and carry on like it's another day.
Like your work.
You wonder what's happening to yourself.
How could we as humans allow such atrocities to happen, let alone as frequently as this? The situation is indeed soul-crushing, but what factors have led to this scenario? I began my investigation in Zululand Rhino Reserve, where, through the swift, selfless actions of Karen, Mike and their team, we're able to rescue an infant rhino calf from the devastating poacher attack that took her mother's life. To better understand the strategy, I learned of the sinister tactics poachers employ to identify target rhinos. I investigated why white rhinos are poached significantly more than black rhinos, experiencing firsthand their behavioral differences, and concluding that black rhinos are far more volatile, prefer thicker bush, and so are far more dangerous to poach than their white cousins. Taking my investigation to Kruger National Park, I joined Richard at yet another poaching crime scene and learned of the horrific techniques these poachers use to disable their prey and claim their tainted goods. Before dawn breaks, we receive a rude awakening. Richard's rangers have found another poaching incident in the middle of the night, and we rush into action.
We've just got to get going here. It's about 5:30 a.m. I've just had a call from Richard. A gunshot at this time of the night usually means a rhino. I think it could quite possibly be the same gang. It's the right area. Speed is of the essence, because what happens with these guys is that once they've got a rhino horn in their backpack, they make a beeline for the gate. They take a lot more risk, and we've got to move fast if we're going to catch these guys.
Despite the horrors I've seen, this may finally be our chance to take action. But what awaits under the rising sun? Richard should be just up here somewhere. This is around about where he's told us to meet at this corner. Here he is. Morning, Rich.
Morning, guys. Yeah, we had shots early hours of the morning, not that way. Let's go and see.
Yeah, well, see if we can find something to follow up on.
You know, we're just walking in on an area right now that shots were heard at first light. They were heard by one of the clandestine patrols that Richard's got out here. You know, we're under the impression that it's probably the same gang that shot a mother, then gunned down the calf as it came to see what was going on.
A rhino track.
Yeah, we've got a rhino track. He's not running though, is he?
No. We'll follow this track because this is last night.
Last night's rhino track coming in here. Here's the tracks here. This very rhino is not even running here. Must have been walking peacefully through here.
Sadly, the rhino's peace was not to last.
There's a rhino.
There's the carcass. Big female, huh?
Yeah, big female. There's the wound.
Yeah.
Look at the eye. It's
Yeah.
lifelike. It's almost as if it's still alive.
Which it was just a little while ago.
Another female rhino, similar in size and age to the one we found, killed along with its calf. Except this happened just a few hours ago. Once again, we're too late. This time, however, we may have an opportunity to do something about it.
Now that we've established the crime scene, Richard's just coordinating his forces, he's coordinating his assets.
Okay, teams to the south have got the tracks.
Okay, perfect.
They've cut that spur.
Okay, so bring in the dogs.
Yeah,
and the chopper.
they've got a dog already. They're starting on it, so we're gonna carry on now.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Excellent. Excellent. The fact finding has stopped, and the chase has started. They've got some tracks ahead of us here. Richard's coordinated with his air support, he's coordinated with his dogs, he's coordinated with his tracker team. And we're just gonna hustle straight to that point and get onto those tracks as fast as we can. A fast, efficient follow-up is absolutely crucial at this point.
You know, when people think of dogs as being used for anti-poaching, I think they very often picture these giant attack dogs. Well, that's not it at all. These Malinois have got the most incredible nose. They're very, very precise with that nose, and if these dogs are on your trail, you will not escape.
Yeah, 2 people. We've got an all-star tack here, and it looks like a safety boot of sorts. Pretty fresh, probably 2-3 hours. Heading east, so we'll put the dog on it. She'll be able to pick up the smell now.
The poachers are in for a rough day. The dog is let loose. Richard and his team members take the lead, and I follow with the camera crew.
What you're seeing here is the leash being pulled tight. The harder she pulls the leash, the closer the poachers are. At this stage, she's not pulling particularly hard, but she's still on a very strong scent. I would hate to have a dog like this trying to find me, because she will not fail.
We're getting closer. As the scene gets fresher, the dog pulls noticeably harder at the leash.
Look at just how tightly she's pulling this leash. What an incredible nose.
Trained not to bark, the poachers who are somewhere out there won't hear a thing until the chopper is in the air.
These poachers are really close. She's really pulling harder. Send the chopper. We are...
Within a couple of minutes, that chopper's going to be overhead. I'm going to jump in that chopper, see if I can help see anything from the air. We're going to fly over in front of the dog. At that point, Richard and the dog handler are going to go as fast as they can behind the poachers. We're going to be watching from above, hopefully get them pinned down and be able to overpower them.
Okay, these guys are not spooked, so we're going to wait here till the chopper gets here, and then we're going to go in.
The helicopter, manned by highly trained Sand Parks operatives, arrives within moments. The stakes couldn't be higher. We need to catch these poachers before they reach the perimeter fence of the park and dissolve into the population.
What I've done is I've left Richard on the ground there. The dog is on very hot tracks. You can tell by how hard it's pulling the leash. We're going to go up a few hundred yards ahead of the dog in concentric circles. That way the poachers are probably going to hide because they're not going to want to be spotted from the chopper. Once the poachers hide, that gives the dog and the team on the ground the opportunity to come up and hopefully catch them.
The helicopter pilot and I are connected to Richard by radio. Teamwork and communication will be more vital than ever as we approach these dangerous men. If the helicopter gets too far ahead, or if we lose sight of Richard and the dog below, that's when things turn dangerous.
Carter's War would like to thank the following people and organizations. Without their help, this program would not be possible.
There we go.
Hey, we got them. Okay, Sam, switch that one there. There's two of them. They've got the same footwear as the tracks we've been following all day, and they've got enough kit to stay for probably 2-3 days here. Firearm and an axe.
Richard and his men have the poachers in custody. The job is done.
This is the result of incredible teamwork. If every park could be this organized, if every park could utilize their assets and maintain their infrastructure like Sand Parks do, our wildlife has got hope.
Today has been a success, but it's been costly. There will undoubtedly be more poachers who will, like these men, enter the park. But the 3 dead rhinos we discovered will never come back.
You know, when you look at the amount of effort that goes into an operation like this, the success is all the sweeter. And just to know that that's some of the poachers out of the mix, hopefully a huge message to the remaining poachers. It's these kind of successes that keep these people out here in the field. It's a tragedy that we've got to go to these lengths just to protect our wildlife. But it's awesome that there's people who will.
As the poachers are led away, they will face trial, conviction, and jail time. I reflect on what I've seen and learned on this journey. I reflect on the people on the front line, hardened warriors fighting for rhinos every day. We've got an enormous responsibility. Indeed, the very essence of conservation is these people on the front line, and their effectiveness is directly proportional to the support they receive. Yes, indeed, if we want our children to have the choice of being able to visit this incredible continent and see its wildlife diversity in its natural habitat, we must step up and support those on the front line protecting it. If you would like to learn more about this episode, or if you'd like to support these people on the front line, please go to carterswar.com.